Welcome to the Light Conversations. I am so delighted to be joined today by international healer, life coach, and co-founder of Intuity International, Keith Hodge. Hi, Keith. How are you today, and where in the world are you at this time?
Hi, Giada. Thank you so much for inviting me to this beautiful space that you've created. I am in Brighton, UK at the moment, and I'm really good. Thank you.
What's your daily routine like at the moment?
I wake up, meditate, then prepare for work, see some clients online. Everything's online these days. Then go for my daily exercise. I've been training hard for running and training for a marathon, so I do that in the middle of the day usually, and then come back for some more clients, dinner. Yeah.
Is there a bit of DJing somewhere in between there?
The DJing kind of happens in intuitive bliss. I don't practice DJing anymore, but it's like once a week, every Friday, we do this beautiful event with healing music, and a journey arises through intuitive bliss, and that's one of my biggest passions is music. But I listen to a lot of music throughout the day. So when I'm doing the admin side of my work, I'll be listening, sourcing tunes, like, oh my god, I found a really good one, and I have to download it.
Have a current favorite tune?
I got many current favorite tunes. Would you like me to say one of them?
Yeah.
Let me just have a quick look.
Like one that really is a good one to dance to for anyone listening or watching who's looking for something.
Ambient tune. This isn't a dance tune. This is called Passage to Eden by Ivan Torrent. Dance wise, I don't download as much of that. I do listen to a lot of that, but it doesn't really blend so well with the work I'm doing.
Well, actually, let's talk a bit about the world you're doing. You've given me one good track, Passage to Eden. So that's like a meditation track.
Yeah, I tend to source music that's like really uplifting or really powerful but it's ambient music. Sometimes it's beats. In this sense, it's a beautiful female vocal voice that just like lifts you up. I play it like towards the bit in intuitive bliss where we're heading into bliss.
And is that a Zoom dance party? Or how are you doing that?
It's not a dance party, it's a guided healing journey, intuitive bliss. So people put on headphones or Bluetooth speakers, they lie down and they go into this healing experience, and it's different every time. Like it could be ancestral healing, or last week was on an emotion, is on fear. And then there's an opportunity to break through things. So yeah, people are generally moving in these particular events.
Amazing. And how do you decide what the process or the theme will be each week?
It tends to come into my awareness during the week. At the moment, we're going through the emotions, so I'm still not actually clear what this week's going to be. We've already done grief and fear, so yeah.
Okay, you mentioned Intuity Bliss. As co-founder of Intuity, how did that come about, and what inspired you to create that, and what is it exactly?
Yes, so Intuity is a space for the deepest transformation you could possibly imagine, and we do that through a range of different offerings. But at the core of our work is the invitation to discover yourself in a way that you haven't before, to learn what your expression is in its fullest, to embody your power, so that the teachings of your heart, like when we live in heart, that's one of the journeys we take people through, is able to be fulfilled, so you can bring your gift into the world. So that's really what we stand for. And as I say, we do that in a variety of ways. We have workshops, group healings. There's a training academy called the Empowerment Training, which is 3 modules where you then graduate from the academy, and if you want to, you can go onto a mentoring program that I mentor people to become healers in the world. And so yeah, quite
Amazing.
a lot.
Amazing. And you talk about living in the heart and the journey to the heart. Like, what does that mean exactly?
Living in heart is knowing yourself in the truth of who you are. It involves discovering what it feels like first to be centered, to be present, to have that sense of knowing and to trust that. We've been trained by society to live largely through the mind. And when I say the mind, I mean conditioned patterns, responses, reactions, like should nots. And there's like this sort of container that we grow up in of like, I can't really discover myself fully because I have to be this way. So we help people to dismantle all these different ways of being that have been set up and all the ways that they protect themselves. Because if you have to be a certain way, maybe you're going to avoid certain situations because you fear them, or you're challenged by certain types of people, and all these things move us out of center. So it's one thing to discover what it means to live in heart, and it's an entirely different thing. It's almost like a life's journey to fully live in heart.
So what is one small thing that I and anyone listening or watching could do towards living in heart?
You can ask yourself questions, small things. Generally the easiest way to start, like, what does my body want to eat for dinner tonight? Or do I really want to hang out with this friend who's invited me for coffee? Or am I just doing it because I should? And you start like listening to this inner sense of, actually, I don't really feel like hanging out with that friend tonight. I want to watch a movie. And starting to trust and act on what your heart's guiding you to do. So that if you practice those little things enough, when it comes to the big decisions, like where do I want to live? Do I want to change my job? Then you trust your heart. And it's like, okay, this keeps coming up. I'm gonna trust.
Okay. And would you say, is there a difference between the heart way of living and intuition, or is that where intuity comes from? Is it a blend of heart and intuition?
Intuition is one of the qualities of heart. I think it's important to learn where information comes to us, because intuition could also be gut instinct, which in our work we would identify as emotion. So if you start to feel like, oh, I don't feel comfortable presenting, my boss has asked me to present this and I don't feel comfortable taking that on, it's likely that it's not actually a heart-based intuition. It's an emotional-based sense of like, you don't feel comfortable. So yeah, we encourage people to really learn where their information is coming from. And in our first module, A Journey into Heart, we also teach how to open the senses. There's 4 main senses, which are seeing, feeling, hearing, and knowing. So it's like you're engaging with the energetic world, where you could say intuition is actually coming from. Like your heart is the center point, and you're processing all the information, and it's like then you know something to be true. And so what if you don't have the language of the senses open fully, you might be getting snippets of information and then calling it intuition, like I feel this way. And sometimes it could be heart sense, and other times it could be actually misleading you. So
That's really useful and a really helpful way of clarifying that I think most of us are operating from a place that is quite confusing. There's information, there's knowledge, but where is it coming from? Is it inherited, or is it, So you basically lead people through a journey of self-awareness into a heart-centered living, amongst other things. Let's talk about the different types of healing you do. I know that you're an expert in hypnotherapy and acupuncture, amongst other things. Can you tell me some of the other areas that you're most passionate about as a healer?
Yeah, sure. Hypnotherapy and acupuncture have been part of my journey to understanding how to work with the mind, how to work with energy. And there's many other forms of like tools within healing that some of the viewers here may have heard of. And I find that it's the combination that creates the ability to work with any healing issue. Because, say for example, a lot of psychotherapy or counseling based is it focuses on like this life, like what's happened in this life in a child. It's a really important journey to take. And I think a lot of people that come to me for the first time, their healing may be a lot of this life, emotional issues that have got stuck, need to be identified, traced, and healed, so that those emotions aren't stuck there anymore. And I've developed a technique called emotional tracing that is very powerful and efficient in doing that. But then once you start to clear a lot of this life, you realize that there's still a lot of healing issues that are present. And I find that past life work is vital. Like in my experience, there's something beyond this life that is carried. You could call it soul or something. Some part of us has an experience, and if that experience is strong and traumatic, that the imprint of it can be carried forward into this life, and it may be triggered off in this life. Even maybe a moment in childhood is like recreates that the expression of that wound. Yeah, if you only work with this life, you don't actually get to the root of where it formed. So there's still something remaining. Ancestral healing is a really interesting and I think a growing area of healing at the moment. And what ancestral healing involves is that we were born into environments with our parents, our mum, dad, and wounds that they haven't been able to deal with, or maybe they were born into themselves, maybe their parents or grandparents, or way back, maybe 7 generations back. Sometimes you see where something's happened and it's been passed down through the generations, so that when a baby comes in, it's like in this environment where this is the normal, this is the story of their life that they take on. And they either are the same expression of the wound as the parent they inherited it for, or maybe they position themselves on the opposite end of the spectrum, like this is wrong, I won't be like this, so I'm going to be the opposite of that, which is the same thing, it's just duality, right? So I think those 3 main areas are what I'm genuinely looking for when I'm working with people. And I do these sort of bespoke, like if people want to work with me one-to-one, they can apply for a bespoke program, and we have a number of sessions where we're working on these different areas of healing, and then something in the beingness will start to show itself. Like I call them the core wounds, and these are the core reasons that we don't express ourselves, that we don't learn how to be abundant, or really, manifesting our fullest gift in the world, so that we're recognized for who we are. And when a core wound surfaces, it may need more time, more attention, like half a day or a weekend. And I create the environment to be the exact mirror of what they need, for them to come face to face with, like their deepest fear, or something that they haven't been able to look at before. Is like in this environment, in this space, it's held enough that they can break free of that.
That must, it sounds really like such an interesting job, because each person is so different, and what they're dealing with, and the trust that needs to be created to get someone to that place where they can look at their fears or their limitations. Like, it's a really fascinating kind of journey that you take people on. How did you end up doing this kind of work? I mean, how did you go down this path?
Yeah, so when I was 23 years old, I had joined an accountancy firm in London, PricewaterhouseCoopers, and I was in my first year of training to be a tax consultant. And I didn't know myself at all. I was very anxious, and for my uni years, I'd partied a lot to really have an expression of who I was. Like when I was out partying, I was able to be me, but the rest of the time I was this role, this like, oh, I should be this way, or hidden and anxious. And so when I started this job, I carried on the partying, and then I was commuting long hours and, hating my existence, to be honest. It really wasn't an expression that matched who I was inside. It was just something I thought I should be doing to be successful in the world. And I got chronic fatigue. So my body is like, no, you're not going to be doing this. And I went to the doctor. He signed me off work for a year. And it was in that year that I started to look at myself, to do therapy, to explore like what was underneath this, because the medical profession didn't have any answers to something called chronic fatigue. They just said you got to rest and exercise a small amount. And so during this journey, I met a psychic lady called Maury, and my friend Tim had been on about her for a year or something, and he was saying, yeah, he could see that I wasn't destined to be an accountant, and something else was there. And he put me in touch with her, and I walked into this room, and there was this purple tablecloth, the tarot, the crystals, and I was a bit nervous because what's happening? I need some answers. I'm willing to do this, but I don't believe in this. I didn't have any belief. I'd grown up in an atheist family, and so I walked in, and she looks at me, and it's one look at me, and she was like, "Oh my God, you're going to be this incredible healer. Thank you for coming to see me." And I answered, "What's a healer?" And that really was the catalyst. Like, she put me in touch with healers. She was there guiding me and supporting me, and yeah, what a blessing she was.
Amazing. So once she had sort of awakened that possibility within you, what did you turn to next? Did you study? Did you work with different healers? How did you develop your skills?
Yeah, I left the job, and I set up a gardening firm so I could do something that was grounding me. I think that's what I needed at the time. And the money that I was able to save through that, I started having different therapies. So I, met different healers. I did some basic healing training. I wasn't comfortable with my ability. Like, I knew I could do things, like I could pull energies out of my friends, but I didn't really know what I was doing. And I think it was when I went on a winter break to India for 4 months, and started to explore different spiritual practices, met some gurus, and when I got back from that, I was like, I'm going to be a hypnotherapist. So some sort of real clarity came through that I was going to study some body work, do some massage, and train to be a hypnotherapist. And that was the starting point for me with working with people, with helping to shift issues, or get my hands on bodies, learning what it feels like when a body's stuck in a certain way.
Well, that's a really interesting kind of way that you found your language, your tools for how to do what you actually had already within you. How does hypnotherapy actually work for people who are kind of interested in trying it but freaked out by it?
Yeah, the funny thing about hypnotherapy is it's been misrepresented by the likes of Paul McKenna and Darren Brown, who have used it for entertainment purposes. And it is funny, but it's at the same time really doesn't represent what happens, because the person receiving hypnotherapy is totally in control of the whole experience, whereas they make it look like they're out of control. That's why people are scared of it. But ultimately, hypnotherapy is a relaxation. It's a level of relaxation that they're guided into by the therapist, almost like a meditation that is guided. And it's in that meditation, with the facilitation of the therapist, they can be guided into their unconscious mind, which stores experiences. And it's these experiences that will have led them to wanting to have a therapist in the first place. So something gets stuck. We go through life, and we get to a certain point in life, we have an experience for the first time, like maybe someone breaks our pencil at school, or shouts at us, or mum doesn't come when we're crying. And so they're small experiences to the adult mind, but very big to the child. And in that moment, we create a story like, I'm not good enough, or I've done something wrong, or and we don't like this experience, the emotions that come with the experience, we push them away. And it's that pushing away, resisting what is, that then creates a seed. And it's that seed that builds into an issue when we're older, like anxiety or jealousy, or like typically most people come to see a therapist because they've got an emotional issue going on, unless it's like body work. But even when it's something physical, emotion is often caught up in the reason that we've created a physical imbalance. Yeah. So it's very, very safe. You get guided into yourself, and in that place you get to complete on things that have been building up through your lifetime. And then you don't have that imprint causing those issues anymore. So you get to know yourself as you really are. So like someone who's very afraid of flying, for example, they're not afraid of flying. It's just they've got something stuck emotionally that has to express itself because it's been there so long. And it could have been caused by a flight, but often it's not. So often it just manifests, and they're like, I don't know why I'm feeling this way. And once it gets shifts out, then they can go on these flights and not have a problem. So hypnotherapy is for me, a great therapy, and it's relatively entry level. At the same time, you can shift a lot of things with it. But if you want to, for people that work with me these days, have generally done a lot of work on themselves already, so that they're looking for the next stage, like who and what can take me to the next stage of my evolution to, and that's where the energy work, really, really takes off.
So that's your main role, is taking people to the next stage of their evolution. That's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Are you able to do the hypnotherapy work with people online, or does it have to happen in person? Like if there's a glitch in hypnotherapy, like a tech glitch.
Online, I've been doing it for years, but with lockdown, more and more people are becoming open to working online. I think with hypnotherapy, people are generally a bit more wary of it because they haven't had a lot of therapy. So concept of working online can freak them out a bit. But the reality is that it's like we're meeting just as we would in clinic, and the words they're hearing in hypnotherapy are coming through just the same as if they were lying on the couch in front. When I work as well, and that can also be done on Zoom. So I think there's a new world really of therapy that's been born through this lockdown.
Right, incredibly. So you are able to help people overcome some issues and traumas with hypnotherapy online.
Absolutely. And with the energy work, my guides is coming in. So
yeah, let's talk about that a bit, because I actually took part in an energy healing session you did online recently, and there was some psychic surgery, and you called in your guides, and I actually watched it not when it was happening live, but you mentioned that it's still possible to receive healing because the guides are there working with you. So let's talk about guides. So I do this kind of like, I know some of these things, but I am saying, let's talk about it because I don't think everyone listening does know. And I think people who don't might be quite interested to know. So let's talk about guides, and let's talk about psychic surgery.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So healers have the opportunity to open up their senses, as I've said. It's like the beginning of a healer's journey is to be able to connect with the four main senses, which are seeing, feeling, hearing, and knowing. And with guides, the main sense that would help is hearing. So it's channeling, so that you can speak to another energy form, vibrational beings that are able to support and facilitate healing, which makes it possible online anywhere because they can just be with the recipient. And healing actually happens through the person who's receiving it opening up and choosing to transform themselves. So the word healer I often say this is a little bit misleading because it's more of a facilitation because once you've got the right skills and knowledge, you can help someone else take the steps that they need to transforming. And but for people that can feel and see, hear, know, like, guides are all around us, and we tend to have our own guide teams. Most people have a main guide when they start to open up. Not everyone has guides right now on their journey. It really depends how much you've evolved.
Is there a step that people can take to try and connect with their guides? Is that something you help people do?
The first step has to be heart, you see. Don't have connection to your heart, then how do you know what you're doing and what you're connecting with and who you're channeling? It's just like a overwhelming, confusing world, really. And how do you differentiate a thought from a channeled message if you can't sense, if you can't feel the vibration of it? So, you know, I think these are the steps that people need to take. It can take time, but some people are born with their senses wide open and they just know they can do it, or they are doing it, but they don't quite have the language of how to decipher the information, and others are shut down because of how they were brought up. And they need to open up all the woundings first, heal those, and then they realize that they can bring through this information.
Okay, so basically you're saying come and get into the heart first, and then you can learn to understand which guides may be coming in, where they're coming from, and what information is coming from a guide as opposed to the ego or the intuition, kind of discerning, where all the different information is coming about. Okay. I just have to acknowledge, I love that as you were describing guides, my child just wandered in the room and said, cereal, and wandered out again. She must be one of my guides. Such is the nature of creating a series whilst in lockdown, right? I mean, we're all enclosed. Can we talk a little bit about what's happening in the world and your interpretation of it on a kind of spiritual, holistic level? Like, I read a quote, we are all coming out of this in a different mental state than we were in a few months ago. Like, you know, what is your take on how we can holistically emerge from what we've been going through for the last couple of months, just sort of shut down from each other? And
yeah, I think it's going to be different for different people, you know. Like, for me personally, it hasn't really affected me. Like, I've just carried on with life. I haven't got sucked into the fear or the concern about anything, really. I just looked at the opportunities, like, okay, I've lost my whole clinic physically, can I work online? And then it's like, well, what do I really want to do? And then the answer was the music. The Intuitive Bliss was birthed. I think with everything there's real opportunity, and I'm also aware that many people in the world are very scared for various reasons of what's happening. Maybe they're vulnerable, and so it could be life-threatening if they're to catch COVID. There's a whole wave of conversation around the world of what may be going on behind the scenes, and there's people that believe it and people that are very strongly believers of the mainstream news, and I think it's shaking things up. I think there's like more people willing to speak up and question things, which is ultimately a good thing, because then we're not just being guided by the authorities as to how this should go, but I think it's gonna, I don't know, I think it's gonna be a different world going forward. And
what's your ideal situation for the world going forward? Can you paint a picture of the world you'd like to see?
I would love to see people wake up en masse, and to really learn how to be themselves. And, you know, I guess, you know, to see the work that I've been doing accelerated, because I know I'm not the only one. Me and my wife are not the only ones doing this work. There's many, many light workers, healers with similar messages and expressions and variations of how people can open up and transform. But I do see an acceleration in the people that are committed, that are really choosing to wake up and be themselves in the world. And I wonder for those that aren't doing any work on themselves at all, if there's an acceleration of the difficult emotions, like if there's like coming face to face with the stuff that they have successfully been able to avoid or bury up until now is coming up, and maybe it's really difficult times for them. I don't know, because they're not in my networks. But I would love to see this as an opportunity where consciousness in the world does start to shift, and we make hard choices. Like, what is the hard choice for the environment going out of COVID? And to have leaders that will be brave enough to make those decisions rather than based on other influences. But I just suspect this will happen over a long time, not quickly, because the world's set up as it is.
I like that, though, the vision of a global shift in consciousness. Like, how beautiful would that be? And yeah, thanks for what you just shared. Is there anything specifically that you want people to know about you and the work that you do that we haven't discussed already?
That I bring humor and mischief to transformation when I can, because it doesn't need to be serious. Like, it often appears very serious, this work, and scary or significant, and it really doesn't need to be. Like, I think the message I'd like to leave the viewers with is, like, healing can be a beautiful way. It can be a beautiful experience, which Intuitive Bliss really offers. It's like, and, you know, if there's an inspiration from anything that's been heard here, to follow that, you know, to reach out to me or other healers and to take the steps to discovering who you are. Because I think there's no greater gift to the world than becoming 100% a higher self embodied here now. And that is possible.
And by higher self, do you mean like your best self?
Yeah, like the highest expression of yourself. That we often, like in sort of the new age spiritual theories, was looked at as like something you connected up to and you got information from. But it really is, it's the work is to embody it, to be here physically expressed.
Physically here, but like fully connected to the other self and selves and guides and everything out there too. Would you have any tips right now for people who've heard that term that you mentioned, global shift in consciousness? Anyone going like, yes, I want to be a part of that. I want to know how to do that. Like, what's something that people can do, like a step they can take towards their own shift in consciousness?
Trust yourself. It's the biggest thing. The guidance, as we spoke about, is intuition, like, comes. If something keeps coming, it's very, very likely it's heart. And the heart will give you the next step. And that step could be big. It could be like, I need to leave my job, or I need to break out of this relationship, or when lockdown lifts, I'm going to move to this country. And so often that big step seems so scary that people don't take it, so they live a lesser life. It's a choice. It's not right or wrong, but they're not following the soul's path. So regardless of how much work you've done, if there are intuitions coming through that keep coming through year after year, then my advice is to trust it, to take that jump and to see what happens.
That's a good one. So, what are your plans for the future, and what are you looking forward to as we get back out into the world again?
Well, I'm moving to Ibiza, and I was supposed to move in April, and lockdown created more time in Brighton, which has been beautiful.
Yeah.
But I'm really, really looking forward to getting to Ibiza and hoping that France and Spain open up so that I can drive our animals across. And yeah, having a different experience of life in a hot climate, and somewhere that's very creative and can be, inspire intuitive bliss in new ways that maybe I can't even see yet. Um, I'm looking forward to being able to start the empowerment training again. We had to put on hold the Journey into Heart in March, and we provisionally have it scheduled for July. If regulations change, and then the second module in October. So yeah, just like looking forward to having these in-person connections again with people to, yeah.
And will they be happening online as well for those who might want to attend but not fly?
We are looking at doing a Journey into Heart online.
Yeah.
It's a 5-day course. I believe it's possible to teach it with the same level of power that we do in the other trainings. At the moment, we're not thinking about that for the modules 2 and 3 because they go so deep that, like it's a retreat. Discover Your Power, the second module, and it's like that intensive time together. Dynamics that happen between participants, inspiring each other or seeing breakthroughs, or all of that works really, really well in an in-person environment. And I think probably we'll just wait for this to be possible.
Cool. Well, thank you so much for making time to talk about your experiences and your passion and your expertise. And it's wonderful to see you and hear from you. And I'm really excited for you that you're moving to Ibiza, and we'll be running your courses and workshops from there, and hopefully online as well. And if anyone wants to get in touch with you, do you want to shout out your website?
Yeah, so it's www.intuityinternational.com, and there are a whole bunch of online events that are sort of easy to access, workshops, group healings, and so if people are interested, yeah, just reach out.
Cool. Is there anything else you want to say before we say goodbye?
Just that I love this offering, and thank you for bringing this conversation to the world and letting people know about different healing opportunities that exist.
Awesome. And thank you for the work you're doing. Very good work. Thank you, Keith. It's really good to see you. Take care and enjoy the extended birthday celebrations. Happy birthday. Take care, Keith. Bye-bye. Be well. See you online somewhere again soon.
Yes. See you soon.
Thank you.